Hello folks, I am Ed Overstreet and welcome to the Night Sky Imaging YouTube channel, and if you've been here before, welcome back. We're going to be working on solar time lapse today, and I have changed how I do those. The software is the same, but how I use that software has changed. So let's head over to my workstation and get started. Okay, good place to start is to go through the steps and explain, and then we're going to actually process a time lapse that I took on 6/3. I start with Autostakkert, and even before that, I'm using SharpCap, and I would recommend using the 16-bit mode. You'll have an SER file. If you use a 12-bit mode, it will be an AVI file. This was, I was using the 12-bit AVI files, and someone made a comment, which I sure appreciate, and asked me why I wasn't using the 16-bit, and I did not know why. So since then, I have converted to the 16-bit, and the difference is contrast. With 12 bits, you have 256 shades of gray from white to black and everything in between. With a 16-bit file, you go from 256 to I think it's 65,000 from white to black. So really, it's a no-brainer. Depending on scene conditions, if the scene conditions are really good, I will only take 500 frames, and I'll keep between 12, 13, 14, 15 to usually no more than 30%. If the scene conditions are not good, if there's wind moving the mount, or if there is air turbulence between the sensor and the sun, and you know how the target kind of wavers and moves and focus seems to go in and out, then I'll take 1,000 frames and I'll only keep between the same percentages, 15 to 30%. Now, I would rather take 500 because processing goes so much faster. And since you never know what you're going to get until you actually produce the video, it takes up a lot of hard drive space, and so that's my thinking behind it. I go into step 2, and it's here that I do a batch sharpen and run deconvolution, and I use ImPPG for that. Then I move the images into PixInsight. You could use Lightroom, and in Lightroom, at this time, if you're using Lightroom, you can blink them or go through each of the images and delete those that you're not going to use. You can batch crop them by using the sync feature. You can colorize, you can sharpen, and even at this time, if you're only using Lightroom, you can match total exposure by going into the library mode, and I think it's under Tools, and there's a match total exposure, and so that allows you to do that. In PixInsight, I call that linear fit. You cannot do linear fit, nor can you blink your images until you've aligned them, because the geometry will be all crazy and it'll fail. So after I've done PixInsight, where I crop them, colorize them, any further sharpening, and I do that in a batch mode, then I move those images into ImPPG again, and they have a great alignment or registration process. Now that I have the stacked images colorized and aligned, I go back into PixInsight, where I run linear fit, and I run that on a batch mode, and I will blink them, where I'll go through them and decide if there's any too soft to keep, and that's generally what I'm looking for. Some images, because you're keeping the top 10 or 15%, they don't even have enough good frames, even though it's the top 10 or 15% to produce a detailed sharpened image. So I'll delete those then. And I'll revisit the image to see whether or not I am absolutely happy with the framing. And since I've already ran alignment will do some built-in cropping. In order to align them, some of the edges are going to be cropped. So I'm going to revisit to see if I even need to add to that crop. And if I crop, then I will need to do another alignment. So that's why I've got all the question marks there. And so from PixInsight, if I cropped, I'm going to go back into ImPPG and align them again. It never hurts. So if I do not run that final crop, then I am ready to go into step 6 and run the software that creates the movie. And you have the option with PIPP to do a movie file, an AVI, a GIF, or you can do some PNGs or TIFFs. So now if you plan to use AstroBin, if your movie looks good and you want to put it on AstroBin, you can only upload GIF files. They're larger. Don't know why they have that restriction, but that's the way it is. This is the software that I use and the websites. I will put those websites in the description of this video. So now let's start. And I want to bring up Explorer, File Explorer, and go to the third and essentially show you what I have done. This is my time lapse that I did. Let's open that folder. These are the videos. There's 264 videos that were done. And I saved 18%. So these are the saved TIFF files. And then from there, I went into ImPPG and I did a batch sharpen, and I'll open one of these and I deconvolved them. So there's nebulosity at work. Let me close that out. And then I went into PixInsight, and it's here where I colorized them. I'll open up another one. And I cropped, and I did that also in a batch feature that PixInsight has. Then I went back into ImPPG where I aligned all the images, and then I went back into PixInsight where I ran linear fit, and then I took the matched the exposures. I didn't do any further sharpening with this image, nor did I do any further cropping. So I was ready to make the movie, and I've yet to make the movie. We're going to do that today and see what we've got. So let's get started, and I'm going to bring up Autostakkert, and I brought up 2 copies of it because I clicked it twice. And I'm going to open up an image, and I'm going to go through what I would do if I had not ever processed this at all. So we'll go to our external drive, 6.3, step 1, and here are our files. I'm going, whoa, ahead of myself. We have to make a flat file. So I'm going to go to image calibration. Let me back up. I'm not going to load all of my AV or SER files. I'm not going to load all of my video files yet. I need a flat because I have a lot of dust and junk on my images, you'll see in a minute. So I'm going to go to image calibration, and no, I'm not. I'm losing my mind. I'm going to click open, and we got to go find the folder that has the flats in it. Hang on there with me. There we go. And so I'm just going to pick one. I took various exposures. I happen to know the darkest, I think, is 6. And so it's in planet mode. You want to change that to surface. And you can see that I have some smudges. And so the only thing you do, you load the flat you took. And I took this flat by centering my telescope, my mount, into the center of the sun, and it kind of filled the frame. And then I defocused 1,000 steps using my Moonlight focuser. And so what you see instead of the sun, you see the dirt and dust that's on the sensor. So now I want to go to image calibration and create a master flat. And I am going to just call this master flat. Get real creative. And we have to find a directory for it or a folder for it. So we'll just go here. Let's go ahead and put it in the flat folder and save it. So now I have a master flat saved, and it's time now to open all of my images. By the way, these are the flats that I took. And go to all of the SER files, and here they are. So I'm going to load them all. This is how batch works. And so now that I have them all, I only have to go through the steps of Autostakkert one time, and then it will repeat itself as it goes to each of the SER files. I'm going to hit the control key and click on that sunspot and use that as an image stabilization anchor. And then I'm going to analyze this. I want to make sure surface, we knew that was improved tracking. I use cropped instead of expand. I'm going to change noise robust to 3. I anticipate a very high signal noise ratio. I don't always do that, but I do that with, in fact, I'm going to go down to 2. And auto size, no double stack, and locals check, so we're going to analyze. Okay, I took, in my slow laptop, that took 30 seconds. Now we need to set some align points, and they have default of 24, 48, 104, and 200, and that just references the size of the sample boxes. 104 is 104 pixels by 104 pixels. This is 200 pixels. You get the picture, 24 pixels. So I'm going to go with 104 pixels. I'm going to clear and apply, just automatically let it apply this grid. Then you remember I used 18%. That is what I kept. So I kept 18%. And if you put 30 here, then it will create a new folder called AS underscore percentage 30. So this is just tells me that I kept 18% of the 500 frames. And over here at the lower left on Autostakkert, it shows you that you have 500 frames to stack in this one SER file. I'm just going to make this 19% because I don't want to override anything. And I'm not going to wait while this runs through all the images, but I am going to show you how it works and just evolves to the next one. So hang on here. We're going to start this stacking process. I will point out that my quality graph shows that just slightly over 25% of my images are in the top half. This line cutting through the middle is at 50%. So, and where this green line intersects just tells me that roughly 25, 50, about maybe 30% of my images are better than half of them. Half of them below, half of them are above. And then this is the top 25%. And by the way, if you just click on this graph, it will bring up the image. And you can see that it's a better contrasty image than, let's say, if you clicked on one down here. But at any rate, we're about to finish this up. And so it's going to go, oh my goodness, mistake. I forgot to apply the flat frame. So we're going to cancel this. Never too late to cancel, but I'm so glad I caught it now. In order to apply the flat frame, go to Image Calibration, Load Master Flat, and it takes me right to it. So let me see. No, yeah, 6.3. I loaded it in my flat directory, so there's my master flat. Now watch the dust go away, and hopefully the gradient. So now we have a flatted frame, and it's time to analyze it. We got to start from scratch, but you get the picture. You can walk away once you have applied your reference points and selected to stack the image. And come back when it's done. By the way, let me point out, this is by far, without a doubt, the longest wait you're going to have when doing these videos. As you can tell, it takes a while to do each of these. All right, my quality graph dropped somewhat, although I didn't put a reference point up, I don't think, but that's okay. We're going to only save 19% anyway. We're going to place our grid, and don't ever check sharpened. You don't need to drizzle the sun. And so let's stack. Now that we have our flat applied and our dust removed, and there's really no need to scrub through these looking for your best reference. This version, the latest version of SharpCap, does that for you. It's after all, it's picking the top 19%. It'll pick the top image to use as a reference. So we're going to wait this one out so I can show you how it's going to move to the next image. And it will also flat out the next image. So it's hands-free from this point forward. Just go get some lunch, dinner. You might be able to get lunch and dinner. All right, starting all over again. And so you can see the next image that loaded is already flatted out. So this is the second image. And if I go to my directory, and you can see where I have a new file called P19, and I have two images. Now this isn't completed yet, but it's about to complete. But it's going to go through each one of these. Now, it also, I'm glad I did this, it creates a text file that has all the settings for this file. When you're finished doing this, what I do is I'll just click on, say, list, or wait a minute, I don't want list, I want, I'm a Mac user. Okay, I'll click on detail, and then I'll use type, and I'll just, and that'll, type will organize all the AS3 files from the TIFFs, and then you can delete these AS3 files. So you don't need them. So just get rid of those. And so that's it. So it's running through this. Now I'm going to go ahead and cancel it because we're not going to use these. I just wanted to show you how it was done. And we can close out Autostakkert. We won't use that again. And we're going to open up we're not going to open that up. We're going to open up now ImPPG. and we're going to load one of these images and apply the processes to it. Let me see if I can delete this one. We don't need it. Yeah, we don't need 19. We just need 18. All right, let's just load the very first one. And that's plenty. Let's also get rid of this box. This box allows you to pick an area as your reference. You can use your mouse and make it any size. But whatever you do, just don't fool with it. Go up to Edit and select and process all. This uses some horsepower, but it doesn't delay or slow things down very much. So just process it all in one fell swoop. So much easier. So the very first thing I'm going to do is bring up curves, because I have a dark sky, and as long as the sky is dark, I'm not going to be able to see the data on the rim. So I need to run an inversion, and I could select invert, but I don't want to have a white sunspot and a dark. I don't want to reverse or invert all these features. I want this to be as much like it's supposed to be as possible. And so I'm looking at the rim of the sun because I want to keep some detail there. That's, I think, is going to be the feature that's going to show us the most bang for our buck. And this curve usually just runs along the contour of the actual curve itself. Kind of an S curve here works pretty good as a rule. And moving this in kind of darkens the rim, and it can be darkened too much. So let's leave it about there. A lot of this is going to be cropped out over here. You don't see a whole lot of detail over here, so we're going to crop that out. So I'm going to leave that there and remove curves so I can see what's going on. I'm going to bring the deconvolution sigma up to 2.4, which is kind of a sweet spot for this camera, this 174. Contrast that with the 1600 camera, and I run that up to 4.0 when I'm using that camera. So maybe a little bit too much here. Let's go to 2.2. And what I'm looking at is this rim, this line across the rim. All right, we're going to bring sigma up to about unsharp mask sigma 1.4, and this up to 1.2. And that's going to be where I stop. So I'm going to go up and save these settings, save process settings, and I'm going to put those in this folder right here. Actually, let's just put it in the root folder, and we're going to call this process. Hit the cap key, then unhit it. All right. So now we have our process settings. It's time to do this in a batch mode. So I'm going to go to File, Batch Processing. I'm going to load all of those images that I took, 264. I'm going to find the process setting that I just saved, and that's in the root. Well, I thought that's where I did it. Where did I save that? There it is. So we have the process setting and loaded, and now we're going to need a new folder to save it, and the folder I'm going to save it is going to be right here, Deconvolve. Now, I already have it saved. They're already in there. But this is what you do, and you select that, and then you start the processing, and it's going to apply this process setting that we selected for this image to all of your images. So once that's done, and I have already done it, then we're going to go into PixInsight. So let's close this out, and let's go down to and so here are all of our images now. Obviously, I already had done this, so let's take it into PixInsight and colorize, crop, and make some further edits. Okay, I've opened PixInsight, and let's go to our drive 6.3, and here are our sharpened images. So we're going to load just one. We only want one, and let's increase the size somewhat. And again, you can't blink these images now, and you also can't run linear fit because of they need to be aligned first. So don't try doing that now. First thing let's crop this image, and let's decide what we're going to keep and what we're not going to keep. One thing I know for sure is that I want to keep what I've got on the rim, and we want to keep this. I'm not too sure about this sunspot, but I'm going to keep it at first, and then I may recrop and get rid of this. I want to see how much activity is going to be prevalent here and here. If there's some swirling and some movement, yay, we want to keep it. I also suspect that this is going to be changing over the 4-hour period. So, and you will see the plasma on the photosphere moving around. So that's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and crop. I'm going to go to process and all processes, and we're going to go down to dynamic crop, and I'm going to reset it, and I'm going to bring it in from, we don't need all that sky, and let's can't get a grip on it. Let's bring it down some too, not a lot. You never know what's going to show up on the rim. That's why I hate to crop out any of my rim, because you may have a giant, you never know what you're going to get with the sun. That's why I love to image the sun. Everything is up for grabs. All right, we're going to settle for this crop right here. All right, let's start. So I'm going to settle for this. We're going to crop it. Now I want to make sure that it's RGB. I'm going to go up to process, and you can just go down to color spaces, and that's where you're going to have convert to RGB color. And then once you've done that, then this is now no longer a mono image. We can close out dynamic crop. Let's bring up curves transformation, go to process, all process, and curves transformation. Just start at the left. Just know red goes up, green and blue go down. So click on the red channel, drag it up over here, and we need a real-time preview so we can see what we're doing. And that little circle down there gives you that. Then a green channel, not so much with the green channel. Green goes a long way. And then the blue channel, quite a bit. So here we are. And let's just settle on that. We could sit here and debate it for a long time. And I want to reset this. And I want to now click on the RGBK, And I'm just going to add a little contrast, just a slight S-curve. Nothing major, about like that, and apply that. So close out the real-time preview. Now, are we going to sharpen this any further? I don't know, but if I were, I would go to Process, All Processes, and go all the way to the very bottom to Unsharp Mask. Let's get another real-time preview, and that's way too much. That's sort of my default setting, so I'm going to bring this amount down, and I'm going to click this circle, real-time preview, on and on to see the effect. It's sort of subtle, but it does do some sharpening. So let's bring it up maybe to 50. And try that. Let's settle on 45. Okay, now we apply it. Get a message, ignore it, apply it. And I'll close this out. You won't get that message again. All right, so we're done. Now, let's close this out, and I'm just going to rename this Sun. You don't have to change the name, but I'll show you why in a second. It'll be easy to reference. Now, I'm going to right-click on the desktop and bring up the image container. And let's put this over here. And I'm going to load all of my images. And they're in the Deconvolve right here. So these are the ones that I sharpened. It took me right to the folder. So all of my images have been loaded. I need to forget base directory. You do not need to add anything to that. Under output directory, I need to find one, and I already created. As you remember, I already have sharpened and cropped and colorized. So this would be the directory. So I add that, and then I'm going to change the file name. I don't need the date and the time. It makes the file name just really long. So I'm going to go up to the ampersand and just delete all the way up to the colon. And so that's done. Now I'm going to go to Process, All Processes, or you can go down to Etc. and bring up the process container. And I'm going to open the File Explorer. Now, you don't have a view selected until you select a view. And so I changed the name to Sun, so that'll be easy. I'll just open this up and find Sun. So I've loaded the history of processes that have been done so far. And I want to transfer those. I'm just going to drag and drop my crop, my convert to RGB, so I have everything now loaded. I don't need this anymore. And I'm going to drag this to the desktop. And to apply it, you drag this on top of this and let go. And it will apply every one of these steps, process steps, to every one of these images and save them in this new directory. I'll tell you what, we'll start it, and I'll pick a new directory and I'll just stop it. I'll put a new output directory, and I'll put this on a different drive. I'll go to June and just make a new folder here, new output for Pix, Pox. I'm losing it. PPI, whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay, and then I'm going to drag this on top of here. And the magic happens. So it's going to go through all 264 images. And when it's done, all of those steps will have been applied. So this has finished. And we can close out of PixInsight. We're not going to close out. We're going to leave it open because we're going to come back. But we don't need anything here. All right, now let's let's go out and look at the results. So I put those. Actually, I want to go to a blank screen and bring up Astro. Not Astro 4, Astro 5. Astro 4 doesn't look like it's going to open anyway. This is Astro 5, June. Output, that's right, we all screwed it up. And so here are the files, and so we're successfully cropped, colorized, and we've done everything but align them. So let's go back in now to ImPPG, and we'll do that now. Let's bring up ImPPG. We're going to time to align. So you go to Tools, Align Image Sequence. We're going to add the colorized and sharpened images. And we're going to have to find, I use crop to intersection. I do not want them to build a bounding box. So I'll suffer the crop. I may lose some data, but some area, some real estate, but that's the only option for the solar. And then I want stabilize high contrast features elected. Now we need a new directory. And so we're on 6.3. This is the directory I have. It's I created ImPPG align. So I would select that and just click on Start Processing, and it's going to do its thing. And when it's done, it'll tell me we've got an alignment. So we're finished with that phase. We have the images now aligned. So it's time to go back into PixInsight, and we're going to bring up the aligned images. We're going to run linear fit, and we're going to blink those images. So let's go to batch linear fit first. Let's go to script, batch processing, batch linear fit. I'm going to add the files, and they're going to be, we don't want those. We want to go to, it took me back to the crazy directory I've created. So we want to pick up the aligned images, all of them. And make sure that you create a TIFF file or JPEG, and you put a dot period TIFF or period JPEG, whatever you just choose to use. You do not want the PixInsight XISF extension, because if you have to run PIPP or the align them again, it won't recognize those files. So it will recognize the TIFF file, obviously. We need a new output directory. And so I'm going to make this output directory, we want to go to solar, And I've got one called linear fit, and I didn't get it. I was getting it. All right, linear fit and blink. So I'm going to click open, and that's all you have to do. Everything else, oh, you need a reference image. So, normally what I find out is that as the sun rises, if you start out in the morning and the sun rises, the images start getting brighter. And then in the afternoons, it's the opposite. So the images in the morning are seem to be darker than the last image. In fact, I could probably illustrate that by showing the first one and the last one side by side, and you'd see what I mean. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find a happy medium. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to drag this bar about to the middle, and any one of these would make a good reference. So that's going to be 643. So I would just go over here and go down to, I'd have to open this up, 643, whatever. Just pick, let's go in the middle here and pick a reference. And now we're ready to use that reference to match the luminosity of all the rest of them. And you just click OK, and it's going to save those in that file. I'm not going to click OK because I've already done this. So now I want to blink the images. So I'm going to go to Process, All Processes, Blink. Okay, now it's time to blink the images. So let's, I had a break in my streaming. I had to restart everything. Let's see, we go to Process, All Processes, Blink, and retrieve our files. And we want the aligned linear fit files. And yep. Takes a second. They're large files, and there's 264 of them. Okay, actually you get a chance to preview the movie. Let's make it a little bigger and see what it looks like, because you can run this as fast as 1/10 of a second. So let's do that and see what it looks like. There's a pretty good alignment, but I might run alignment again, because there's some gradual movement of the sun from the first to the last, from left to right. It's hard to notice, but I notice it. Yeah, there's a neat stuff there. But I have, obviously, I've already blinked through this image, and in fact, I kept everything. And that's unusual because I hardly ever keep everything. And but the way I would do the blink is I would use my down arrow key and just go through each image, and I'd look for the real soft ones, and I would get rid of those where there's just not a lot of, that's kind of soft, but I kept it. And the way I get rid of it is I just take one, I go down here to the X, and I just check it. Now it doesn't delete it, it just removes it from this list. And then when I'm done, I select all of them, and down here, the first folder box, I will click on that, and I will select all the images, and I'll move them to a new directory, and I'll call that approved or blinked, something that will acknowledge that I have a final improvement. And it's those images that I will run in the PIPP software to make my movie. So I'm going to keep them all. So let's go make the movie. I can already tell it's going to be decent, um, but let's go check it out. Close this out, and we'll go back and open up the PIPP software. And so let's head over there and open up PIPP. And this is all you do. You don't select anything here. It's in batch mode. Make sure it's in batch mode. But leave everything else alone. Add image files. And so we're going to go and do just that. And then you can delete this if you want, but this will give you a view of how PIPP is going to maybe even add an adjustment to it. It's a little brighter, it looks like, than it was in PixInsight. And just keep that in mind. Often it is. Let's go to animation options. I always elect to play it in reverse right after it plays it forward. I'm not going to do it in this case because it's a 50-second video. That's a long one. But a lot of the time lapses are 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 seconds long. So they're over before they even start. So I have it going in reverse just for effect. And we'll go ahead and do that. And then under, that's all you change, animation, output. I'm going to create a GIF file. You might want to have an AVI or an SCR file, but if you're going to put this on Astrobin, then they only accept GIF movies, so that has to be. The other thing that I'll change is I'm going to make this 60 frames frame rate, and everything else I'll leave alone except for quality. I want the maximum quality, why not? And that's that, and then you go over to do processing, and you click on do processing, and you start the processing and let it do its thing. And when it's done, it will pop up. So we have our image, and let's take a look at it. Yeah, it's a little brighter. And there's our GIF file. And that is pretty cool. Again, I think what I would do now, I'm watching the movement down here, and there's a lot of swirling and stuff going on. Not swirling, but you can see the movement of the plasma in the photosphere. I might elect to keep a crop this even more, and then run alignment again, so that this is really the main feature that you're looking at. But there's not a lot going on here. There is some movement right here. This filament right here had some traffic, but for the most part, the time-lapse feature that's going to draw everybody's attention, if it draws anybody's attention, is going to be on the rim of the sun. And of course, the more often you watch it, the more you notice things that are going on in other places. But that's it. And as far as making time-lapse videos, my friends, that is what I do. And so I hope you guys have a great rest of the day and have clear skies in your neck of the woods.